You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We are on game day, finally. I jumped the gun on Monday, did I not? I'll rehash it. I'll rehash it for you because I jumped the gun on Monday. I went through all of the things that Tennessee Appalachian State's going to mean today, and then I realized that, I had nothing Tennessee left to talk about for the rest of the week. And I still squeeze stuff out of there. Don't get me wrong. I will squeeze every drop of orange out of out of a game day weekend. And we've got a Labor Day weekend where we've got a lot of college football. We've got a lot of college football on Sunday and Monday as well, which for me is fantastic. I'm Adventist, so I don't get to watch all the football that you watch on Saturday. I watch it. I record it and watch it after. I don't get to watch it. I'm at church. You know what I mean? So this is all great for me. I get to watch the Longhorns. They play Sunday night. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be great. I'm a huge fan. It's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. But my deal here with everything, the Longhorns are probably going to get pushed around by Notre Dame. I just feel it. Last year wasn't great. I picked them to win. The quarterback situation hasn't changed for them, and I don't expect a ton there. But we'll rehash all the Tennessee stuff because that to me is interesting. Tennessee last year, that game against Bowling Green at the beginning of the season, they won 51-31 or something like that. That game told us a lot about how that season would go. I don't expect this to be any different. Are they going to beat Appalachian State? Absolutely. They should pound the hell out of them. But if they don't, that's going to tell us something. If they give up 30 points again, that's going to tell us something. I mean, there's a whole lot here that you can read into, and this is all great because this is all live fire stuff, right? This is different from when people try and watch the NFL preseason and then extrapolate stuff from the preseason that you couldn't possibly extrapolate. Oh, yeah, Dak Prescott's going to be really good. And the Cowboys don't have to worry about anything. Dak Prescott's going to be fine. Why? Because he scorched vanilla defenses? I mean, that puts him what? That makes him look better than Jared Goff for now and Carson Wentz for now. But that doesn't mean that Dak Prescott's going to be fine. Put him in the line of fire against these real defenses coming after him and see if he can play well then. What you can take from a FBS school playing an FCS school is a lot because while you are more talented than them, you can see where they're outplaying you, where they're outwitting you. And you're just winning on pure athleticism, which we saw last year against Bowling Green. A lot of Vols fans were they were anxious about that, and they should have been because what we saw later on in the season was a team that was talented enough to beat Oklahoma, a team that was talented enough to beat Florida, not beat Oklahoma, and not beat Florida. And that's a problem. So tonight's exciting to me. I can't wait to see what it is we're going to learn about this year's Vols team because we've just had talk so far. That's all we've had. And sure, Butch Jones is the kind of guy, he loves to minimize the talk. He likes to hide from the expectations. He is not the head conductor of the hype train, but this year the hype train started without you. Everybody's picking you to win the East, and the people that aren't picking you are being ridiculous. So do you come out and match those expectations, handle your business? The good teams beat the teams they're supposed to beat. The Vols are a good team. What I want to know is from last year to this year, did they make the leap from good team to great team? Great teams don't just beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. They dominate them, and they win the games they're not supposed to win. That's what the sign of a good team is. You win the games you're not supposed to win, and you dominate the teams that you ought to beat. We didn't see a ton of that from Tennessee last year, but hey, this entire team is a year older, a year wiser, and there's no excuses left because you hear it year after year after year. Well, the Vols are still young. They're not young anymore. There's a lot of returning players on this team. A lot of players that are on this team, this is their junior year, this is their senior year. No more excuses. If you're not winning, There's a little bit to be said about the style of play, and I wonder how much of that you leave at the feet of Butch Jones, because if you're not winning, it's not for the lack of talent. This team is more than talented enough to win the East, so they should win it. Plain and simple. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I highly recommend that you go to those places. You can stream all of our local programming on YouTube live. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio and check out our backlogged episodes. Okay, they're classics. We never call them old. Also, check us out on Facebook. We stream all of our programming there as well. You click on the little radio plug-in. You've got a little stream of Hot News Talk Radio. Make sure to check us out on our website, of course, hotnewstalkradio.com and noogaradio.com. And, of course, the TuneIn Radio app. It's free in whatever app store you use. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a favorite, and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. That's TuneIn Radio. Listen like you mean it. Freshman quarterbacks. I'm very interested in the idea of true freshman quarterbacks, and this isn't something that I've ever really bothered myself with before, but I can't remember anyway the last time that I saw a guy like Jacob Eason where he was selling tickets before he got here. That everybody was excited about Jacob Eason before Jacob Eason arrived in Athens. And Georgia is not going to be starting Jacob Eason. They're going to be starting our good friend, Mr. Noodle Arm Grayson Lambert. I think that's a great decision. It's hard to start a true freshman at quarterback. And I don't care what your situation is with the guy that you have. It's hard to start a true freshman at quarterback. It just is. There's a lot of things to overcome. There are the physical differences. The guys that you're playing against are bigger, stronger, faster than you guys you're playing against in high school, right? Like when you're going from college to the NFL, we talk about what a big leap that is and how everybody in the NFL is fast and how everybody in the NFL is strong. Like that's a gigantic leap. And then you've got the mental aspect of the game too. But you know what's an even bigger leap than college to pro? High school to college. When you go from high school to college, you don't weigh anything. Anything. Like putting on weight is tough. Building up strength is tough. Getting the necessary muscle added on so you don't take a lot of damage, especially at the quarterback position, because you're getting hit by guys that are 300 pounds. And I guarantee you weren't consistently being hit by 300-pounders in high school. Not usually. You know what I mean? Like every now and then you might roll up on a Brentwood Academy type school and catch some 300-pounders. But usually you're not rolling up on guys that are 300 pounds that are trying to level you in high school. That's a college thing. Especially when you come to the SEC, that's a college thing. So you end up in a situation where you need to add that extra weight and that extra strength. Jacob Eason's got to throw that on. Then you've got the mental aspect of the game, which is that this is just going to be tougher than it was in high school for you, regardless of how good you were in high school. It's difficult to do that. Chris Goforth was on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was saying Matt Stafford, the best high school prospect he ever saw. Coming out of high school, you looked at Matt Stafford and went, gee whiz, this guy could really could start day one. He could put it all together and be brilliant. And then he turned out to be exactly that. Matt Stafford was everything as promised. And Matt Stafford didn't start on day one. If he doesn't start on day one, what makes you think Jacob Eason is going to? And for that matter, because Nick Saban was batting around the idea of starting Jalen Hurts, a guy that I like a lot just from watching the clips on YouTube that I've watched. How you can learn a lot of things from YouTube there. That's how my generation operates. You see 3 clips of a guy on YouTube and you think, hey, this guy's going to be great. I like Jalen Hurts a lot and what I've seen from him. The issue there is that he's a freshman. And I thought that it would be cool if Nick Saban did start Jalen Hurts because of the mobility factor there. He is so fast. He's so fast and he's got a strong arm. It looks nice when he throws it. I thought it would have been cool. But I respect Nick Saban's decision to not start Jalen Hurts merely because he's not ready. I mean, you're going to throw a guy to the wolves like that? It's a tough decision to make. And Nick Saban, of all people, and I feel a little bit bad that I ever entertained the idea, because Nick Saban, of all people, was never going to start a true freshman. He's never done it before. And what do we know about him? He likes control and he likes order. There's nothing that's going to offer you less control and less order in a game time situation than starting a true freshman at quarterback. Especially a guy that when he came out of high school, it's not like we were all like, you know who they need to be starting? Jalen Hurts. We had that feeling about Jacob Eason. If Jacob Eason started against North Carolina, who would really have been shocked? It would have been interesting. That perks your ears up a little bit more, and everybody who's excited about Jacob Eason and everything he's going to do at Georgia, that's game to tune into now. If you're just an Eason fan, he's definitely got the interest of everybody following SEC football. But who here is really shocked that he's not getting the start? And with Jalen Hurts, if Jalen Hurts had started, that would have been truly surprising and quite frankly, very out of character for Nick Saban. He likes the order. He likes to keep things together and in control, and it doesn't make any sense to him to not have that. Now, Nick Saban is a guy, he allowed us all to believe it because he's Nick Saban. He likes the media to be a little confused. He likes the fans to be a little confused because then that means that maybe your opponents are a little confused too. It's all about control for him, and I fell suckered into the trap. Look, we all get suckered into the Nick Saban trap eventually. It's just going to happen. But I think that that's a very interesting thing that he's chosen to do. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I was talking a little bit earlier about Tennessee. We're going to learn some things about Tennessee in tonight's game. I know it's against an FCS school, and that might cause you to want to not tune in as much. But listen, there's a lot to be learned here tonight. Game, by the way, starts at 7, I believe. There's a lot to learn. Talked about it on Monday. One of the things we're going to learn from Tennessee in this game is how they're going to score their points. Are they a running team? Is that the identity that we're sticking with? Or are we going to start seeing some shots taken downfield? Are we going to start seeing some passes that are deep to some of these receivers? We've got a lot of guys that are fast, great hands, but we've never really seen just any of these receivers really in action, because we don't throw it downfield. And I've always wondered, and I'm very curious, is that a Josh Dobbs thing? Is Josh Dobbs not capable of throwing it downfield or not comfortable throwing it downfield? Or is that a Butch Jones thing, where Butch Jones is just so ultra conservative that he just rather run and use up the clock? I don't know. And we hadn't seen Tennessee really show this level of promise until we saw the combination of Jones and Dobbs. And those coach quarterback combinations are important in the NFL, and they're also important in college ball. And I don't know. We're going to have to get to a point where we see Butch Jones coach a quarterback who is not Josh Dobbs to find out who it is that's really keeping this offense as conservative as it is. Like, can you not move the ball downfield because Josh Dobbs can't do it? I don't believe that's the case, because he has thrown some deep balls that have looked pretty nice, but they haven't looked great, right? Like it's not like he throws a deep ball and you're looking at the rainbow and going, my gosh. Because we saw a lot of that out of Dak Prescott and Chad Kelly before he got hurt last year. The Chad Kelly's the guy. He throws a deep ball. It is beautiful. Just a lovely deep ball. You don't get that from Josh Dobbs. So I don't know why Tennessee doesn't go deep, but I'd love to see them do more of it this season, and hopefully they can. And I think that they should. This is the game where you just got to cut it loose. Okay? This is the game where you'll be punished the least for taking chances. Take some chances. See if you can. Blow this team out of the gym, and let's get the fan base fired up. Go deep. Put up points. I mean, it's not that I don't like the running game. I really do like the running game. But put points on the board. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We're talking about things that we're going to learn from tonight's game against Appalachian State. That's one. How are they going to get their points? Another thing that we're going to learn is, can Tennessee's defense be engaged against lesser opponents? We know they stand up against teams that can really score. When they got dialed in the second half of the Georgia game last year, they got really dialed in. They slowed Alabama down to a crawl and stayed in a game that was pretty much ultimately low scoring. This defense can do a lot of damage, and they can stop you from moving the ball at will. But they also gave up 31 points to Bowling Green on opening night last year. Is this team going to make the necessary stops on defense? Are they going to stay engaged against lesser opponents? That is something I want to see. Again, when you've got an opponent like this one, your goal is to show up and smash them in the mouth because they've got a great solid quarterback over there and they can run a little bit over at Appalachian State. They don't have great receivers. So really, this ought to be a pretty easy situation for you. You can pin your ears back a little bit and get after the quarterback. There's no reason why you can't. None. Is this defense going to be engaged? And one thing I want to learn from Tennessee this season that I hope we don't learn tonight is, can they win close games? I really hope we don't learn that one tonight, because that'll be truly disappointing. That's going to be a show tomorrow. We're going to have the whole breakdown of that tomorrow, if that even turns out to be remotely the case. But 7:30 is the start of the game, not 7 o'clock. Excuse me. 7:30 is the start of the game. And I am a person that I am very interested in where all of this is going this season, because Tennessee is in a position to win the SEC East. I have the Athens, the SEC edition of the 2016 Athens preview in front of me, and it's basically nothing but positivity for Tennessee. And here's the thing. I come down a little hard on Josh Dobbs all the time, but I cannot stress enough that I like a lot about the guy. I like his mentality. I like his approach to the game. I like his humility. Said it multiple times on the show. Humility is not something that's great to have unless you are actually humble. I don't want you to pretend to be humble and then people, tell you later and we find out, oh, he's just a cocky guy. He's just an arrogant guy. He was just pretending. He was just playing humble for the cameras. Josh Dobbs isn't that. I mean, people who have spoken to him that I know, that's actually who he is. He's actually humble. I appreciate that, and I really like that about him. I also like his speed. I like how he runs the football. I like how he is good at hitting those short to intermediate passes. I just think they've got to open up the offense for him a little bit. Let him take those shots down the field. And hey, you know what? If he misses, he misses. There's nothing wrong with that. But if he doesn't miss, you make a defense pay. You make a defense pay, especially if a defense is going to disrespect him like that. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Just giving you a little bit of a Tennessee preview. Tennessee Appalachian State preview, as though we have not pounded that one into the ground enough. Another thing that I want to see from this game tonight, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but it is something that's pretty important. What I want to see from this game is specifically turnovers. You're just a more athletic school. I want to see turnovers. I want to see you causing and disrupting plays for the other team's offense. Not that Tennessee didn't do it last year, but to me, that's something that you do with a little extra hustle and a little extra passion, because you're more athletic than they are. It's just one of those situations where you are physically more athletic, and I don't want to see a Team USA basketball type situation where you are merely beating teams simply because you're more athletic than they are. Like, it's just the athleticism should play a part. The execution. I want to see the sharpness. I want to see them come out and say, you know what? We're going to smoke this team. Because I don't think Vols fans have seen that in a very long time, where they show up and know, you know what, we're the better team, and this team is so much beneath us. We're just going to blow them out of the gym. That should be the case. You know what? Colin Kaepernick, this saga never dies. This is like the Ryan Lochte thing all over again. Colin Kaepernick, he has some interesting choice of apparel, and it's fueling the conversation around him even further, and we haven't even gotten to San Diego yet. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose.
Wars come and go, but my soldiers stay eternal.
Now you can listen to Hot News Talk Radio anywhere, streaming live at Noogaradio.com. That's Noogaradio.com.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hi, this is Mike of Wholesale Liquidation, Highway 58, next to Taco Bell, featuring over 6,000 square feet of unique and everyday wholesale items discounted to, get this, 50 to 75% off of retail, from new and pre-owned tools to chainsaws and auto accessories. Wholesale Liquidation, Highway 58, next to Taco Bell.
Rumble in today to Diesel Off-Road Tech for a free diesel engine diagnostic to see what's holding you back. Your 4x4 is gasping like an old lady. It's hesitating. How can you possibly be the man you want to be? Diesel Off-Road is ready for you. 8 bays, 8 techs, plug in, get the $100 diagnostic of your major machine now. A bumper-to-bumper analysis with factory software tools. Free if you mention Cowherd or Hannity. Absolutely no charge. Want to bring a new look or better mileage to your truck or 4x4 off-road vehicle? Diesel Off-Road in Sunny Daisy is the 4-wheel specialist. Lift kits, customizing, all wheels, all tires, performance boosts, repair. Call 805-2800. Diesel's mechanics and techs have 100 years combined experience making engines roar and exteriors sparkle. DieselOffroadTech.com. Call 805-2800.
This is Mike at For the Record at Northgate Mall. We're the largest complete record store in town. We sell old and new vinyl records, celebrity posters, music posters, and we are the largest in town. Come see us.
Expect partly cloudy skies through the nighttime. Overnight lows 68 to 70. For Friday, a few high clouds will pass through, becoming breezy but less humid. Highs mid and upper 80s with more sunshine. Very nice weather for the Labor Day holiday weekend. Highs 88 to 90, lows lower to middle 60s. If you're human, chances are you love cheese, but chances are you've never had a burrito wrapped around melted cheese. It's the best thing since sliced cheese. New Cheesy Core burritos only at Taco Bell. And I'm Sports Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world. Hot News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. A SWAT standoff on Nautical Way led to 2 people arrested after a 3-hour standoff with police. A SWAT team was called out to assist in removing the suspect from inside of the home. At the end, 2 suspects were arrested. Happened at 11 o'clock p.m. Wednesday night. And the mayor's announced he's accepted a large federal grant called Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, or SAFER. It's going to be allowing for the addition of 14 new positions at the Chattanooga Fire Department. The Reed House downtown has been purchased and is expected to be renovated back to its former turn-of-the-century glory. All 242 guest rooms are going to be completely renovated, along with public areas to its original grandeur. And ballrooms and restaurants will also be renovated as well. Chattanooga Mocs kicking off the game tonight at 7 o'clock. They're set to play against Shorter. A number of new student initiatives have been released as well. Shuttles will be provided by CARTA. There's also more free student parking along with other benefits for students. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
So I'm 26 years old, and it's an interesting point in my life, because when you're in your 20s, a lot of things start to change for you, and in a way that your perceptions on things start to change. You start to get a more adult look of the world because you start to do more adult things. Right? You start paying your own bills. You have to work mostly for yourself. If you don't work, you're not eating, typically, unless you still live with your parents, which that's nothing to be ashamed of because of the rising cost of college and the amount of college debt that people come out with, and then they're not able to find jobs with the degree that they got. Basically, we were all told as kids, hey, you go out there and you get a degree, you go get a bachelor's degree, it'll all be fine. You'll find a job, don't worry about it. And then you graduate and there's nothing out there for you in a way that you were told that it would work. And that on top of the fact that we don't necessarily know what to do. Right? Like in the movie Fight Club, he says that we have no Great Depression, we have no Great War, we don't have any place to be, and we just have to sort of figure it all out. And so we have all of that stuff. You're in this bizarre point in your life where, like, your parents are your friends now. Your parents don't tell you what to do. You still have to kind of figure it out yourself. And you want to rely on them, but you can't. It's a weird spot to be in your 20s. And I'm sure maybe you remember being there, maybe you are there now. But I'm here now. And one weird thing about being in my 20s that I never gave thought to, or I never considered, was people that I looked up to would get really sick and really close to dying or passing away. That wasn't something that I imagined when I was a kid. And so you hear people talk about, like, when you're a kid, whenever a celebrity dies, your parents are like, oh man, so-and-so died. Oh, that's terrible. How could that happen? And you're thinking to yourself, like, who cares? You don't know that person. You never met that person. Anytime a musician died, right? Like, anytime a musician died, even if they were old enough that it wasn't weird or unnatural, my parents would be like, oh man, I can't believe we lost that person. And I'm like, who actually cares? You don't know any of these people. But now that I'm getting into that stage of life, now I'm in my mid-20s, there are people who had a huge imprint on my life that we are now losing, and I don't know how to feel about it. It makes me feel really, really bad. A, because I can't believe that I said all those things to my parents all those many years ago, but B, because there are permanent places in my life, or at least in my headspace, where these people were, where they were inspirational to me, and where they mean a whole lot. And one of those people is Craig Sager over at TNT. Craig Sager is a guy that I have always had a lot of respect for. He's known for wearing those outrageous suits, those outrageous outfits, and you're just looking at the guy and going, seriously? But he was having a good time in his own skin. He enjoyed what he was wearing. He liked his stuff. And while there was a lot to respect about that, there was even a lot more to respect about Craig Sager as a person asking questions on the sideline, which is that he asked a lot of really good questions. And I don't know if you know what a sideline reporter is for, because I certainly don't. I think like 90% of sideline reporters are pointless. I really don't know what a sideline reporter is for. I know what they do, but that's wholly different than knowing what a sideline reporter is for. They give us updates of stuff that the guys in the booth could have given us. Like, there's nothing that a sideline reporter does that could not just be sent up to the broadcast booth for those guys to say out loud. If somebody's hurt and there's a quote from the locker room, why could that not be run upstairs to the broadcast booth? There's literally no reason for most sideline reporters to exist. And that is not to poo-poo the profession of sideline reporting. Because I understand that it does exist and that there are people that do a very good job. You know, Doris Burke, Michelle Tafoya, Aaron Andrews. There are people that do a great job at it. I'm not saying that there isn't, but it is bizarre to me that you've got somebody that stands there at halftime, pulls the coach aside, and asks 2 questions or 3 questions that basically gets us a cliche spat back at us. And I think what Craig Sager was really good about doing was asking questions that got us a little bit deeper than the cliched answers we were going to get. He tried to pull something out of there where there was nothing. Because there's just nothing there sometimes. When a coach is going to give you a cliche, he's going to give you a cliche. Have you ever heard a Butch Jones interview? When that dude is going to give you a cliche, he's going to give you a cliche. And there is not a thing on earth you can do about it. If he's ready to give you, certain individuals, how many times? Here's a drinking game. Take a drink every time Butch Jones says certain individuals. Actually, don't do that because I don't want you to get cirrhosis of the liver. Everybody isn't certain individuals, Butch. Say their name or their position or whatever. Like, he just has this boring way of stating the complete obvious. Craig Sager could get something out of Butch Jones. It might not be much. That is a towel that you are trying to wring dry that doesn't have much in it. But he could. And Craig Sager's personality shone through every interview that he ever did. And now that he has cancer and he is in a hospital room going under his 3rd bone marrow transplant, and it's not looking great. And I saw pictures of him and I was not ready for it. Really, really brought me down. But he still somehow looks and sounds Craig Sagery. And there's so much to respect about everything that is that I hope that there's more guys like him. I don't know if I'm that. It's one of those things that Craig Sager inspired me in this broadcasting business, that you see a guy who's completely willing to go out there and be himself. And I have always felt awkward in my own skin. That kind of inspiration, that goes a long way for me. I was just some weird kid that loved radio. So I think I owe a lot to Craig Sager. And it's just weird being at that age where you could lose somebody that you really, really respect, even though you never knew them and you never met them. Still somehow you feel connected. And it's just one of the more bizarre things to me. But I wish, Craig Sager the best. I wish the Sager family the best. He's a stand-up guy. He's a class act, and I wish them nothing but the best. TNT basketball is not going to be the same without him. And even if he recovers, I wonder if he'll be able to do the games. That's the thing. There's so much energy that he's already expelling right now, just trying to beat this cancer. I don't know. It'll be hard to tell. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Let me not forget to remind you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. What other avenues are there? We've got an Instagram. Right? Yeah, we got an Instagram. So make sure to check us out on those. Also, make sure to check us out on our website, hotnewstalkradio.com or noogaradio.com, Nooga radio.com. And in the TuneIn Radio app, which is free in the App Store, Apple or Play Store, whichever one you use. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio. The app's completely free. Search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite. Press play. And you'll have Hot News Talk Radio every single where that you go. I use TuneIn Radio to listen to basically everything here because sometimes I end up outside of our signal coverage. And I listen to TuneIn Radio on the app. And I've heard good things that a number of you also listen to TuneIn Radio on the app. So keep listening. Keep getting those downloads up. We appreciate it every time that you do. You know what? I have some questions for Colin Kaepernick because I've been defending Colin Kaepernick all week. And it's an interesting position to be in because I actually talked to a buddy of mine last night. A good friend of mine came down and we had some dinner with him. And I was defending Colin Kaepernick and what he chose to do, because I think a lot of people took grief with what Colin Kaepernick did because we hold the American flag to be sacred. We hold the American flag and the national anthem to have this higher meaning. And if somehow you do something to disrespect that, we don't like it. We don't like protests. But if you're going to protest, we want to tell you what to protest like. You realize that that's what a protest is. A protest is supposed to be controversial. A protest is supposed to be attention grabbing. If you don't like that this is grabbing headlines, go look up what a protest is. Go look it up. Because what Colin Kaepernick is doing more now to start discussions on race than anything that anybody else is doing. And I say this as a guy that has a lot of respect for Carmelo Anthony, who plays for the New York Knicks. Carmelo Anthony is a guy that has organized protests and that is organized. He didn't just show up in the streets and just start shouting through a megaphone. He's organized marches, and he's gone on these marches. And you know what? We didn't notice. We didn't really care. You know when we started talking? When Colin Kaepernick didn't stand during the national anthem, which is the point. If you're not going to listen to traditional means, if a march isn't going to get your attention, then maybe somebody's got to sit down through the national anthem. I'm not offended. This is America. You're allowed to choose not to. That's your amendment right. Now, what your employer chooses to do after that, if your employer is like, no, we don't like that. For instance, the NBA, you'll be suspended. Then that's fine too. It's all good. If your employer doesn't like it, that's fine. If people say you should have stood during the national anthem, that's fine. If you don't want to and you don't, that's fine. The national anthem and the American flag, these things are symbols of what America ought to be. And America doesn't always reach those goals. They're goals. If you're protesting the fact that America set this goal for itself and we didn't reach that goal because there is discrimination and it does exist, and I don't want to hear from guys like Paul Feinbaum that black people are not being oppressed in America. They are. They are. Institutionally. Okay? It's not your fault. I'm not blaming you right now. I'm saying overall, it has been set up that way. And if we don't think about it, don't talk about it, and don't change anything, then what's the point? But America set a goal, and we're not reaching that goal. The national anthem, the American flag, is a promise. When people came over to Ellis Island, remember during the potato famines, the Irish would come over, people would come over to Ellis Island, they'd come to America looking for a new life, and they'd see the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is an awesome landmark. The Statue of Liberty is also a gift from the French. Just, little extra information. The Statue of Liberty was one thing at that time. It was a promise. We're going to take care of you. That flag, the American flag, I love that flag. I respect that flag. I respect the national anthem. I love this country. I love America. But that flag is a promise. And it's getting broken all the time. And if you choose not to stand during the national anthem, during the raising of that flag, you're not saying that you have a problem with the flag. You're not saying that you have a problem with what the flag stands for. You have a problem with the fact that that flag stands for something greater than what we're giving it. When a police officer shoots and executes a young black kid in the streets of Chicago, that's a promise we're not living up to. When a gang member shoots a little kid or shoots a mother of 3 in the streets of Chicago, that's still a promise we're not living up to. And if you want to protest that, if you want to do something to get and draw attention to that, that's okay. Where I have a problem with Colin Kaepernick is that he is a guy that is entirely unprepared to have the conversation that he himself has started. Look, protests are for starting conversation. The protest doesn't make the change. It starts the conversation that makes the change. And not even that. It starts the conversation that hopefully influences the right people, whether those are the people who have the power now or the next generation of people who will one day have the power, influences those people to be able to make the change. It's like a 3-step process. The problem is Colin Kaepernick is botching step number 2. Step number 1, protest. That's hard to do. When you feel like something is wrong, when you feel like something is unjust, that's hard to do. But he did it. He knew there was going to be backlash. He knew it wasn't going to be easy. And I respect him for that. And that's about where we stop, because Colin Kaepernick has found a way to botch and bungle our having any part of this conversation all the way through. All the way through. This week, he wore socks. He wore socks with they were police pig socks. They were socks with little pictures of pigs, and the pigs had police hats on them. And that doesn't look good. What it sounds like there is that you're anti-police. And I think, look, I have a problem with the police shooting black people, which that is an actual problem. It does exist, and it exists, okay? I have a problem with police shooting poor people, any race. That problem exists. If you're poor, you're more likely to get shot. That's just a fact. And it doesn't matter if you're white, black, whatever. There have been a few white people shot by police this year. And what do they have in common? No money. No money. You're just not in a position to stand up to authority. And it feels like they got taken advantage of. I'm very much against that. But I would never wear, and I love wearing crazy socks, by the way. I'm wearing a pair of Native American sort of, I picked up a pair of socks in New Mexico. I have a gigantic sock collection. I love wearing socks. It's one of my favorite things on earth. However, I would never wear a pair of police pig socks because I respect the police. The goal here is not to disrespect police. The police, most of them do their job. Most of them do their job correctly. When you wear a pair of police pig socks, that's disrespectful to the police. Even if you release a statement, and Colin Kaepernick stood in front of the media and he had some things to say about the perceptions of his police pig socks, he was ready to preemptively defend his police pig socks. But the police pig socks are not saying something good. What they're saying is, I mean, that's a derogatory term for the police. You call them pigs. That's different. And this is what I'm talking about. Colin Kaepernick is a guy that seems to be wholly unprepared to have the conversation that he is having. Because if you were prepared to have a conversation about changing things so that police aren't the subject of blame that they're not on the hook for, like the police that are out here being racist, and they do exist, especially in San Francisco, where Colin Kaepernick plays. Those police deserve the blame that's coming to them for the things that they have done. The goal, however, is not to make a mockery of and blame all police everywhere for all the stuff. Made a statement concerning his socks, and he said, I wore these socks in the past because the rogue cops that are allowed to hold positions in police departments not only put the community in danger, but also put the cops that have the right intentions in danger by creating an environment of tension and mistrust. I have 2 uncles and friends who are police officers and work to protect and serve all people. So before these socks, which were worn before I took my public stance, are used to distract from the real issues, I wanted to address this immediately. Listen, that's not what those socks say. All that extra stuff that you added, that might be what you think, but that's not what those socks say. There's no way that a pair of police pig socks, basically a pig with a police hat on it, says that this is about the rogue cops. Really? People have been calling the cops, all of them, pigs for years. That's not what those socks say. That may not be what you meant to say, but that's not what they say. And he's just entirely unprepared to have this conversation. And then, he's talking about starting the conversation, and he's wearing a Fidel Castro t-shirt. Castro, it was a picture of Castro meeting Malcolm X. Fine, whatever. But Fidel Castro, if you want to talk about how black people are oppressed in America, don't wear a Fidel Castro t-shirt. Fidel Castro is one of the biggest oppressors that ever lived. And at least that ever lived in the last century of our Earth's history. All the things that Fidel Castro has done to the Cuban people. What, are you serious? You have to be insane. He's not ready for this conversation. It seems to me that this is something that he feels strongly about. And I don't know if you can tell by listening to me, it's something I feel strongly about too. But I'm ready to have this conversation. I haven't done a protest or anything, but if you want to have this conversation with me, the Hot News Hotline, 423-800-8949. Go ahead and give it a call. I'm ready to have this conversation. You can also catch me at Twitter, at the Sports Cloud, or at Sports Cloud on Twitter. Go ahead, look it up. Hit me with a tweet. I'll get back to you. I'm ready to have this conversation about race. That comes from being knowledgeable, opening a book, trying to be well-read, trying to understand the situations and scenarios that got us into this place where we have oppression. Trying to learn and understand those systems. This feels like Colin Kaepernick was talking about this stuff with his boys. They all felt strongly about it. They all felt bad about it. And Colin said, you know what? I'm going to protest this. And that's as far as he got. He got no further than that. Like a lot of WNBA players, they got in trouble with the WNBA because they were wearing black for the same reason. They didn't wear their usual warm-ups. They were wearing black T-shirts. They got in trouble with the WNBA, and they were prepared for the conversation, so much so that when they stood up for themselves, the WNBA actually backed off and rescinded the fines that were coming to them. Be prepared to, if you're going to protest, if you're going to put everyone through this thing where you're just like, is he disrespecting the country? Is he disrespecting the flag, or isn't he? Be prepared to defend that decision, and be prepared to defend the conversation that you are actually trying to start. And Colin Kaepernick is not ready, and he has been undermining his own cause and the cause now of others every step of the way since he decided to protest. You've been listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Tennessee kicks off in half an hour. 2 millennials up next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd.